Hey, Mike Watts, what's the deal, man? I thought we agreed to meet at the same time. I see you, but what's Derrick doing?
No, it's already 9:12.
Good Lord.
Excuse me, 9:07.
Man, that guy he thinks he's busy all the time, but, he doesn't understand how busy we are. I don't know.
Only caught Derek sitting in his desk drinking coffee most of the time.
Yeah, that's about, the
Oh,
boss is
Guys,
here.
sorry, man. I have got so much going on. I'm telling you, it's just crazy. Wait, hold on.
Yeah, well, man, I told Derrick, man, we're busy. What are you doing? We've got things to do too, man.
Derek, what is the topic of this discussion this morning?
Uh, Time management.
Time management. I can't stand it. It drives me flippin' nuts when it says something that you're going to start rehearsal at 9 o'clock and you start at 9:08. You wasted 8 minutes. You take 8 minutes times 5, and that's an entire band period for the week that you've wasted.
Well,
Then
I hate to
multiply
tell
that
you.
by the members in the band, my friend.
There you go. And would it bother you if I said we've got so much to cover, we might run a little long today?
Oh, oh.
Good morning,
Hell,
gentlemen.
Good morning. How's it going, Derrick?
morning,
I'm
Derek.
doing
How are you?
great,
Mortal.
Mr. Watts. I hope everybody's doing fine. And I know you're going to tell me to call you Mike, but so everybody knows, if you're not in the video portion of this, we're excited. It's Mike Lunney and I, as usual, and we have our good friend Mike Watts joining us
Yeah.
again.
It's a pleasure. I tell you, this podcast is so beneficial to so many people. Not just because I'm here today. That's nobody wants to get me. But what you guys do is an incredible service to the band directors across the country, state and country.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, excuse me, I'm going to drink some coffee at my desk real quick.
There goes some more time, Mr.
Okay.
Watts.
So gentlemen, I'm going to say this gently, but nice coffee mug. I like it.
Well,
I'm going to say this gently, but I think it's a truth that needs to be said. As Mr. Lunney always says, the quiet part out loud. I think that so many people, and I've been there. I can't exclude myself from what I'm about to say. We think we're so busy, but I don't know that we're any busier than anyone else. Maybe just sometimes we don't, and I'm trusting you guys to lead us the right way here, but is it planning? Is it we just don't sit and think through things? Why aren't we getting things done? Everybody has the same amount of time, right? 24
yeah.
hours every day. Rehearsals are rehearsals, and
that's
Yeah,
right.
I think the biggest thing is, they feel like they don't have enough time to plan because they're too busy doing other things, but then they waste so much time because they fail to plan. And that's a hard concept to get across to some people that, for every hour of rehearsal, there needs to be a certain amount of planning occur. Mr. Watts, what do you think?
Without planning, you're doomed for failure.
Yeah.
I don't care how busy someone is. You can use Elon Musk for an example. I'm sure that he's planning his day, even though he works 23 out of the 24 hours a day, in order to get where he is today. And all the successful programs, you have to have that time to sit down, even if it's just 5 minutes, or while you're sitting there drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, you've got 10 minutes to put down a pad or a pencil, or you've got auto voice on your phone, audio voice. You've got some way to sit there and try to at least plan the day, let alone rehearsal. The rehearsal's a whole nother topic, but at least plan the day so that you don't waste that time.
Mm-hmm.
so I'll throw our first old adage or axiom or saying I've always heard: failure to plan is a plan to fail. So,
Yes.
and listen, we can get into whatever you guys want to on this. It's not really that hard to plan. We're not talking about minute in this. It's not like an instruction manual. It's just, even if it's just a basic outline of things I need to get done, a to-do list, a dedicated time to think for a few minutes. You said 10 minutes, probably enough. Okay, let's look at today. Is there anything coming up that I probably need to revisit? Yes, no. Did you guys use any specific tools to help you plan? And listen, I assume that we're going to delve more into the rehearsal time,
Yes. Yeah.
but just as life.
Right.
I mean, I think planning is important in everything, not just band rehearsal. So
Yeah, I think the biggest tool we can use for planning rehearsals is putting everything in time boxes, where you set up your rehearsal where this much for fundamentals, this much for body choreo, this much time to work this particular piece of part of the music, etc. And I would use like one of those big old-fashioned like boomer digital clocks I would set it up, and then when we took that amount of time, even if we weren't done, we went to the next thing. We went to the next thing, and just making sure that you do that. You've got to make sure that you anticipate what I call the time killers, where you see it in the drill or the music, and it's like, that's going to take some time. So those, don't ignore, give those extra time, but just make sure that you've set that up in time blocks and you've explained that to your staff and gotten input from them. There's things that go on the field that I had no idea was a problem. And all of a sudden a staff member goes, oh, well, Mike, it'd be kind of nice if we looked at set 14 and, there's flute players running into each other while you're worried about the low brass feature, And so okay, so we give them time,
just a
so
casual
that's kind of
drop.
my first thing is, just communicate and put it into boxes of time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and just have it all laid out, tell your drum majors, etc.
I think I totally agree with Mike. When I was teaching at Permian, and I set it up a little bit different in that I would start my year with long range goals. First one being marching contest, second one being region and area contest, third one being cabaret concert, fourth one being recording for Midwest, and then UIL in the spring and spring concert. And that was the long term. And I broke it down from long term to individual goals of each ensemble and the time frame that I wanted to make sure that I covered in that time frame. For instance, let's just talk about marching now that we just finished with marching. That
Oh, we're not finished yet, my friend.
well, no, that's true. I know. Yeah, but by having those long term goals and I wrote them down. I wrote dates down. And when I figured out what literature that I wanted to play, I wrote down how I wanted to attack that literature, how much time I think in days and sometimes weeks, how much time I think I wanted to devote to that before performance or contest. But again, getting back to just the first goal that I had every year was, the UIL marching contest. And I think that we lose track of a timeline throughout the course of the first 9 to 12 weeks. The groups that I've been working with here have, they don't really have my goal every year was to try to have the full show on the field 2 weeks before contest. And, like Mike was talking about just a second ago, the things that you can't control. One year I remember I was teaching the final drill the Thursday and the Saturday through Thursday before the week of UIL because we had rain that would not stop for about a month. And so those things you can't control, but several of the groups that I've been working with, they're teaching their last drill the week before contest, in some cases 2 days before contest. And that's just setting up failure. Music-wise, same thing. Where do you want to be in the music as far as ensemble, sections, individuals? What day do you want to have all the individuals have their music played off before contest? How many days do you want to spend on sectionals on the marching music before you think, okay, they've had enough before we burn them out, ensemble-wise? Where do you want to be ensemble? A month before, 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before, and I don't know, that's just the way that I plan, and we can get into the individuals, but individual rehearsals also. But I think long-term planning really saves a lot of indigestion.
Yeah. Hey,
Not
and
the
it
word I
blows.
thought you were going to use.
Yeah, it blows my mind when you said like bands putting on drill 3 days before contest.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's when long-term planning means cut the rest of the 14 sets,
There
do a
you go.
reprise of the introduction, and get off the field. The kids cannot be ready. It's hard.
For
Yep.
people that think like me, would it be safe to say what we're talking about right now is start with the 30,000 foot overview of your year or your semester? Look at what you're going to get, what events are going to happen. Don't let them sneak up on you. And then, Mr. Watts, you're saying realistically, and it's easier the more you do it, correct? It's not like, but
Yeah.
so, or if you are new at this or first time or a new teacher, ask somebody that's done it a bunch of times, or ask one of a consultant, find somebody that wants to help and say, how long should I plan for this? How long should this take? And it's different for every group and every size and every experience. I get it. But from the 30,000 foot, you're not doing details.
No, not at
You just
all.
think
No.
these are the things. So so now we've got our semester mapped out, a rough estimate or what we think it's going to take to accomplish each of the things that are going to happen. Where do we go
Correct.
next?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I take each segment. I segmented the year. I teach each segment, and I try to figure out how I'm going to accomplish the goal, either with the Midwest recording, UIL, region. How am I going to accomplish that goal? And I try to do it during the summer too, and a lot of it in the anymore. Mike, a bit more than I do. Marching is not my forte, but there's got to be groups that have to have things ready with their design teams here. They've got to start thinking about show for next year.
Oh, yeah. I'm working with 5
Almost.
groups right now on next year's productions.
Right. Yeah. So, you just take it in a year-round mode, but you take each segment and figure out what do I have to do in order to get where I am, where I want. And if you don't have that, you play catch up all the time. And, you don't sit there and go, oh, you know what? I think we'll record for Midwest this year. Well, okay, fine. Where are you going to do it? Who are you going to have record it? Who are you going to have do the video? What clinicians are you bringing in to tell, say, hey, this is what I think you could do better for the recording. Who do you have at the recording saying, hey, maybe we got to, pick another day. There's just so many different things. What march are you going to do that you think you can get prepared by in time along with your major work that you think will satisfy the folks on the committee that listen to all those recordings, And then again, I'm just using Midwest as an example. But if you just all of a sudden come into January and go, hey, you know what? I think it's a good group. Maybe we'll just go ahead and record for Midwest, and it just doesn't happen that way.
And spontaneity is not necessarily the best ingredient for success.
No, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's how. I don't know, Mike. You do it differently, but that's how the long term planning, the 30,000.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to say one thing, and Mike, I'm going to give you a chance, Lunney. I'm just saying, I want to throw this in there too. You need to write this stuff down, because if you don't write your goals down, they're not goals. They're just thoughts. You'll forget them. Write the stuff down. Make a plan. I guess that's really what I'm trying. And Mr. Lunney, you can answer this as easy as Mr. Watts, but these things overlap. It's not like you say, okay, it's October 28th. I'm done with that last section. Now I can start thinking about that. Because if you're doing all region, if you're doing all state with your kids, they got to start working already. I mean, that's something that goes along with it. But as a general, these are the things I need to focus on the most at this time.
Yes. There's no doubt. I would like to use a whiteboard and do the major things on that whiteboard in my office or my home office. And that kind of keeps it where I see it every day. And it kind of, instead of putting it in a folder and setting it away for that 30,000 foot view, it worked for me, but you're right. You've got to plan ahead. I mean, we're already planning next year's marching shows. I'm working with a director who wants to record for honor band, and we're trying to pick out literature, and he's reaching out to a lot of people. I'm not trying to say I'm the one helping with that, but he's a smart gentleman reaching out to 4 or 5 people, getting selections. And so that's an ongoing process. And as the young directors get older, like you said, Derrick, they'll realize a lot of it is kind of the same modules each year. You just plug in the new information. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every year. You just kind of, and the best thing I could say for a young teacher to do is, like you said, get with an older teacher who's had a little bit of success and say, how do you do this? And that way you can steal their system of modules to put stuff in. And I say getting into like more brass tacks with what we do for our rehearsals. We'll do some concert and some marching, but in marching band, this seems like a little thing, but I always met every morning with all my people who were moving equipment for that rehearsal. And it was only like a 10-second meeting. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. We just met. And then I would look, and first thing is make sure they're all there. And if someone's not there, I'd say, who can cover whatever. But if you don't take care of that in 10 seconds, you're going to have 10 minutes of stuff being drug across the turf and cords being tangled and someone didn't show up. And I think that's one reason a lot of rehearsals start late in the marching realm, is because the setup crews aren't ready, Something else with that, this sounds funny to say, but have someone in your setup crew change out the batteries once a week and everything.
Yep.
And just throw away the old batteries. Don't wait for them to go bad. This sounds like wasting money, but we did it every Friday morning. Friday morning, they changed out all the batteries because we usually had a contest or a game, and those batteries would last for probably 2 weeks, but we'd throw them out every week and just say, we just want fresh batteries, like the preacher at church. You don't want the battery in the transmitter packs to go out, because nowadays we use 15 soloists and 5 staff members in the big groups, or even if you're a 1A guy or lady with one little flute soloist in your little pack, you still don't want that to go out and waste rehearsal time.
Okay. Give me some more wisdom. This is good stuff.
I think that once you get the overall picture, and like Mike said, and you said, you have it written down, and even seasoned directors, okay, I still wrote all this stuff down even after 37, 38 years of teaching before I retired. Still wrote it down because you're going to forget it. But let's work towards one module, and it doesn't matter to me whether Mike, whatever, Mr. Lunney, whichever one you want to go ahead and talk about, either marching or concert. Organization is organization.
Yeah.
But I always tried to approach any kind of rehearsal or any kind of as if I was one of the students, because there's nothing worse, in my opinion, than going over and over and over and over and over something with your trumpet section with 210 other kids sitting there on the field. Or in rehearsal, you're rehearsing the flutes over and over and over, and everyone else is just getting frustrated and bored. And so anyway, let's just take a topic from there, and let's go with it.
I think the initial one is, you said it earlier, Mike, start on time no matter what.
Yes.
To delay 5 minutes on Monday turns into 15 minutes within a week, and then stop the rehearsal on time no matter what. And in a smaller school, the issue is kids coming mainly from other activities, cross country, swim team, whatever the case may be. But you can't go, well, let's wait an extra minute for these kids to show up. Just start it. And it's not saying you're going to punish those kids for being 5 minutes late. That's a whole nother topic. But go ahead and start, because that's probably, you mentioned your pet peeve of if you were a student waiting for the director to work with a certain section. My biggest pet peeve is just getting to something and it doesn't start on time, and you're just sitting there like, I busted my butt to get here. I ignored some things to get to this point when I'm just an ensemble member, like church choir, something like that. And then it starts 20 minutes late. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to show up next week till 20 after 7.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah.
No, let's use Clovis High School for an example. I drove over there and back every day last year, an hour and 45 minutes. There wasn't a time that I was late or a time that I missed for whatever reason. Yeah. So when those students showed up 2 or 3 minutes late from coming across town, I just sit and look at them and go, hey, I just drove an hour and 45 minutes, got here a half hour early. Now you're coming from 14 blocks over the other side of Clovis. You better get your mom up about 2 minutes earlier and get here.
Yeah.
You know, and they understood. And after a while, it just becomes a culture. If you start on if you start on time every day, there's no question from anybody, parents, administrators, anybody. We start at 7 o'clock, and not 7:01, not
Right.
6:59. John Carroll was the best absolute. He had percussion every morning at 6:45, and at 6:45, by gosh, they started. And at
Hmm.
7 o'clock, we hit our first warm-up note every day. And they used to get mad at us when marching season stopped around Permian because we weren't out there. We were their alarm clocks. I'd get phone. So yes, that's the biggest pet peeve that I have, Mr. Lunney, is that starting on time, ending
Yes.
on time. You have enough of a plan that what you have to get accomplished, and end on time. Your students and parents, their time is just as valuable as yours, and the ensembles. That's 95% of the time, folks run over because they just simply don't have a good plan. Even if it's not working, you got to move on.
Right.
You've got to respect the student parents and administrators, everybody else involved with the time. Well,
So can I interject something even psychologically about what you're saying? It is my experience that when you start on time and everybody knows that's what's going to happen, there doesn't have to be, it's not with malice that if somebody's not there, you're like, we're going to start anyway. This is what time we start. And if you don't start at this time, you've just ruined your schedule for the rehearsal.
Right.
Everything
Because
just
I'm
got
going to
pushed
stop
back.
on time. Yeah.
You're not going to get to everything you need to get to. And so if you can approach that with an even, there's no, you don't have to be emotional about it, but all right.
oh,
Like you
oh,
said, John Carroll, 6:45, here we go. All
Yeah.
right,
well,
7 o'clock. Let's get our warm up going. And we're going to stop at the same time. And if you don't do that, I think that internally, a lot of us emotional people start building up stress, and it adds so much more negative to your rehearsal because now you're trying to panic and figure out how you're going to fit everything in, and you're short with the kids, and you're just mad, and nobody knows why, because we're not doing. It's on you. Start on
Hmm.
time.
I don't know about Mike, but I never got mad. I never got upset.
No, of course not. Never, never. A lot of Xanax was involved, but we won't go there.
You can relate it though also to Derrick, to real life experiences. I try to do everything with real life experiences. If their parents show up 2 minutes late consistently at work, they're gonna get fired. If their dad is an engineer and they don't bring in the plans or the product or the project on time, they're not going to get the next project. And so these young kids and their parents, they it's just a matter of service. It's not anything personal, and you can't put it on a personal level because sometimes there are extenuating circumstances. But it's not out of the realm either to know that we start at 7 o'clock, we end at 8:30 every day. We have a 6 to 9 rehearsal on Monday nights. We start at 6, we end at 9. Your parents can count on you'll be running to the band hall at 9:02. So, I just think that's a real.
Well, and part of that is we say this almost jokingly sometimes, but welcome to real life. Welcome to adulting. This is how the world works or should work. There's not going to be any. Why would we want to be second rate at how we operate? So, and maybe that's a harsher way to say it than I meant to, but you know what I mean?
No,
Yeah,
and to take the personal out of it, it's just business. I always had my drum majors start the rehearsal.
yep, yep.
The drum majors knew that at 7 o'clock, that's when they dudded, and we started our warm ups, and I could concentrate on the kids warming up and not worry about looking at a clock. In
Right.
fact, sometimes I would be getting planning ready. All of a sudden, I hear the band start in front of me. It's like, oh yeah, the drum majors are on it, man. so let the kids be with the kids instead of me versus them. It's the drum majors encouraging the kids to start on time.
But at the same time, I'm still trying to make I'm not making the point. The way I'm trying to, there is nothing, you said it, I'm not doing this to be mean to you. This is how we do things. This is how success happens. So, okay, here we go. We'll
Yeah.
start with the people we got. Let's go.
Right. It
Yeah.
also too, it alleviates too a lot of parent discussions also, as for instance, a parent wanting to interrupt rehearsal with whatever problem they have, which, there's always problems, that you can look at them and say, hey, I respect that. We have email and a phone. If you'll call me, then I certainly will listen to we can come up with a time that we can discuss this. However, right now, that we start at 7:00, we end at 8:30. So, and you just move on.
So it's not the time. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, along with starting and stopping, rehearsal on time, it's like Mike was saying, it doesn't matter whether you're sitting down or you're out on a field. You got to have a plan as to what the time frame that you're going to use in order to accomplish that goal. And you have to make sure, though, that I feel anyway, they're really good directors. The Charles Nail, the Barbara and Rick Lamberts, I could go on and on. Did you accomplish that goal? Not just put aside the time. Okay, first 5 minutes we're going to warm up. Okay, well, warming up. What are you doing during the warm up? Okay, tone, intonation, air, body, all of this. Not just so many directors get out there and either they or their drum majors, they start the warm up and the director shuts his ears off. And that's to me, that's one of the most important times of the day, is you can fix so much: tonal center, pitch center, rhythmic center, feet, so much that you can do during the warm-up section. And so I guess my thing is that no matter how you break your rehearsal apart, make sure that you are accomplishing something and that they're just not going through the motions. They're not just doing lip slurs to do lip slurs. Well, are we going to crescendo them and decrescendo? Will you bring out the bottom of the lip slurs more? Are we going to try to center those a little bit more? Tone quality, on and on. But anyway, go ahead.
So anything you do needs to be productive time, not just time filler.
Exactly.
Right. I think another killer for most bands, especially us old guys, we kind of grew up with the idea that the director always gives lots of announcements. That's just what happens because we didn't have electronic means to get all of our information. But as I've gotten older, I think we can train the kids to use apps, to read information on a website, to read updates, and we don't have to go through all these announcements every single day. And I know that towards the end of my career, kids would come up to ask a question. I'd go, it's on the website. I wouldn't even bother answering the question. I'd say, check your website. And they'd just look at me and they'd walk off and they'd go check their website, because why should I tell 150 kids what we're wearing on Friday night?
Well, even with this, Mike, you go down and work with Pecos. I went down and worked with Pecos a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going down tonight to the rehearsal tonight and then tomorrow morning. So I'm sitting there with the music, and like I said, I'm not really a marching guy, feet guy. Okay, so I'm sitting there and going, hey, it really would be cool to have the horn section do this right here, And all of a sudden, Patrick goes to his phone, changes it, and they've got it right there.
Yeah. Updates it on there.
I'm going, man, I wish I had that tool.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's just, I agree with Mike wholeheartedly. The administrative side of, you have to have it sometimes, but gosh, the less administrative side that you can have in rehearsal, obviously, makes your rehearsal more productive musically, or the goal that you're trying to set for.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And what you said about Patrick, the really good bands, they have a system set up to where everyone communicates with everybody. I mean, and we're using electronics. There was a time, put up your phone. But now it's like the drum majors better have their phone in their hand or in their front pocket, because we're communicating from the tower. We have hand signals. We have walkie-talkies. And that saves time, and it saves frustration from kids and staff and me.
And listen, you guys, I'm such an analog person. I really am. I love technology, but I still wear a watch. even though my kids make fun of me. Why do you need a watch? We got a phone right there. Everything we do in life is in that little phone. And I think it's interesting to hear you say that. So there was a time, you would get, we used to call them demerits. You'd get in trouble if you had your phone.
Right.
But you have to have it now.
Yeah, for these bands, all their drills.
Yeah,
all their drills on their phones. So you say, look at set 46, and they all look at their device. And they see where they're supposed to be, and they watch it. With the Beam situation, they can have all their music. They can listen to their music while the app's running on UDB. They can look at their music. They can write on their music with their finger. Think about that on the device.
Yep.
So it's like Mike said, it's amazing. You can say, hey, I'd like the horns to crescendo here, and all of a sudden, in all the horns music, there's a crescendo written now.
Right.
They can all look at it and go, oh, that's what you want us to do. It is amazing, but band directors don't use it. They'll sit there and just kind of keep hacking at the tree with a dull axe,
You're listening to the Ask Mike podcast, available on all major podcast apps. Ask Mike is sponsored by Intune Music and Sound, your locally owned, nationally known music retail, with stores in Odessa, Midland, Abilene, and Aledo. And now, back to the Ask Mike podcast.
Okay. Time management. What's another great help you can give?
I'll throw one out there. Don't stop to fix an instrument in rehearsal. And I'm talking beginner band,
Hold on, let me
junior
get
high
closer
band.
to the microphone.
I actually witnessed a band director replace a tenon cork on a clarinet with a Valentino repair kit that they sent the drum major to go get in the band hall as the band sat there. So I'm thinking, what in the world? And beginners are the worst about it. I taught beginner brass forever, and I taught beginner everything for 6 years. But yeah, every kid, Mr. Lunney, my horn doesn't work. Well, just do the fingerings, give it to me after class, and I'll look at it. But how many directors just stop the whole world to work on 1/3 valve trumpet slide? And it's like, stop it. Those kids their horn might be messed up. Sometimes they just want attention. It's like, hey, look at me. I'm over here as a beginner. And if their horn is damaged or hurt or needs repair, it's not going to help to stop the rehearsal for whether it's beginner band or anything else. So I just wanted to throw that in. That's probably to me, one of the most important points of this whole podcast. Do not stop to fix an instrument,
And also,
or anything else.
Yeah.
To get onto this also, don't stop for no reason. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've watched rehearsals where we're going to go, letter A to letter B, mostly sitting down. Okay. Well, what was your goal? Did you want to hear this? What did you want to hear? And they can't tell me. They just, we just want to go from A to B. Oh, don't stop. Don't stop till you hear something that you want to correct or have something in mind before you started going, hey, okay, yeah, that was better. Not clarinets or whatever. But so many times the directors stop and they have nothing to say. And it's, well, okay. All right. I guess that was pretty good. Well, why'd you stop? Keep going.
And that is a time waster. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I think another thing, more marching band centric, I guess, plan for minor medical problems to avoid panics. When we have a first aid kit with you, a kid, cuts open their big toe a little bit, that you have Band-Aids out there. So it's not a, stop the world moment. We need to call 911. There are times when you've got to go to that higher level. I've called 911 from a marching field before, when things have happened, medical emergencies. But, if you kind of figure that out, and we always kind of told the band what we were going to do in different situations. So if if you're sick, just come to the sideline, drum major or staff will meet you. If it's a real, if you pass out on the field, if someone passes out band, this is what Mr. Lunney's going to do. So there's not an extra level of panic. Mr. Lunney will call 911 because I want that child to be safe. And we just want everyone to know what the system is, but plan for those medical emergencies. Not that they happen all the time. The little ones happen a lot, but the big ones, I can count on one hand the things in 31, 37 years that I've seen happen. But get all that set up so the kids don't freak out, and we're not talking about wasting rehearsal time at this point. We're talking about student safety and just the culture of the band.
again, this is my brain going off the way it goes. I apologize. As we start planning for concert, as we start looking at charts that we want to, I say charts, as we start looking at pieces of literature that we'd like to work on for a couple of months here in the spring, heading up to the evaluation, is it a good time management point to think through what you're putting in front of the kids as opposed to just throwing stuff out there and seeing what sticks? And or as we rehearse and nothing ever gets better, maybe that's a wrong chart, wasted time playing that piece of music, and let's find something that actually works that we can move forward with. That's a lot of question all at once. Now I'm quiet.
Go for it, Mike.
I'm kind of bizarre, I guess. But when I was a Permian, I almost thought 2 or 3 years ahead of time. I mean, I knew what the middle schools had as far as soloists, good players, what was coming up, their evaluations through the region music. So my biggest concern was not necessarily what they could play, although it was. I mean, you obviously you can't throw all the movements of Lincolnshire Posey out there without having a good double reed section to try to play the third move, fourth move, third, So there's a lot of that to consider, but my biggest thing was, what can I sell to kids? I can sell them playing music for Prague, but yet I can't sell the Schoenberg theme and variations. That's one regret I had all those years was I tried that 5 times and the kids just didn't buy it. So my planning, I guess, was a little bit different, a little bit more bizarre. When I was doing the second and third bands, it was definitely what I thought technically and maturity-wise they could handle in the music in order to try to figure out what we were going to do second semester. But I always sat and I just harp on this all the time. You can't make bad music sound good. So I would always try to get as many recordings I could find of each one, listen to them, and say, can we accomplish that or not? And or listen to it and go, oh man, that just really doesn't sound good, and it's just not going to sound any better. And I don't know. That's how I approach the literature. That's what you were asking, right?
Essentially, I was asking, why waste 3 weeks trying to force something that you want to do on something that's not going to work? At some point, you've just wasted 3 weeks, and then suddenly you switch. And I hear that happens all the time. I get it. And it's kind of a random.
Derrick, I don't know how you get around that. Okay, you I don't know, Mike. Maybe you got away, but it's just like with the theme and variations. I thought, man, this is the group here. I can convince the great players. This is it. And man, we spend 2 weeks on it, and I cannot sell it. Finally, I go, okay, you get hit over the head. Okay, kids, I understand. You just really don't like that. We're gonna pick it up, try something else. I don't know how you get around that because
the only way I could, and it didn't always solve the problem, but if it was something of that nature, I would try to throw that piece onto the spring concert. Yeah. So the kids didn't feel like it was wasted. It's like, well, this didn't work, but let's do it on the spring concert. That way it didn't seem like a waste.
I'll move on with this. I want you to share, Mr. Lunney, what you always say. Play what you can for contest. Play what you, how does your saying go? Something, the stuff
play
you
what
like.
You want to at the spring concert, then play what you wish you could have ever played in the band hall only. And I think I've gone out and especially sometimes with a smaller school, and it'll be like 3 weeks before concert contest, and they'll be playing their march, and I'll go, did someone hold a gun to your head and tell you had to play this? And they're like, well, no, I wanted to play this march. I said, it's not working. Let's do Willie Owens something or another. And it's because the marches aren't graded, and we'll switch a march. You can switch up till 7 days prior to the calendar days prior to the contest. And it's that balance of, is it a waste of time, or are we running into a brick wall at 90 miles an hour? A waste of time might be breaks, but sometimes you're saving the whole system that the kids aren't going to embarrass themselves at the contest. So to answer your question, there's no way to get around that completely. It's trial and error. It really
So,
is.
Mr. Watts, to bring you up to date to how we have had this conversation in the past, we do the listening sessions where we'll invite people to bring a recording of their group and we'll listen and offer. It's not necessarily a pre-UIL or something like that, but it is a opportunity for some experienced ears to listen.
Sure.
And I hear this comment a lot. I don't know what I can do to help now. You needed me to help you when you were picking your music.
Right. No,
Based on instrumentation and/or.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. Mike's got that right on the head. And remind me to get into the second part of that also. Okay. I always, Charles Nail was such a mentor to me. There wasn't anything that I take that back. I played music for Prague one year and just did it. Okay. But there wasn't a piece of music that I didn't throw off Charles. And a lot of times Mr. McIntyre. So that I didn't try to get into this, gosh, I wish you would have had that earlier. And I always had open rehearsals, and it was so nice when Cindy Bullock or Heath Nall or Anthony Gilreath or whoever would just come over to rehearsal and sit and go, man, I don't know if you're going to get that section. Now, granted, I had a whole different I had a different situation than 95% of bands, and I know that. I mean, I had incredible players in front of me, and so a lot of it wasn't, I wish you would have got me out here earlier. However, I had as many people as I could get out, and I could go through a list that just, Dr. Bejan would just walk in, he just, to just get to that very thing. I didn't want to. I wish you would have had me out here earlier. I don't think I ever heard that statement. However, when I've gone out and listened, I wish that people would have talked to me about helping with their programs. And it's finally catching on a little bit with the groups I'm working with. They're talking to me right now about what they think they can then program. And Heath Nall, bless his heart, man, he's got an honor band concert coming up in February. And he's been bouncing literature off me and Cody Myers, Dr. Garner, and Donnie up at WT. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? So it's something that, like you guys are hitting on, like Mike said earlier, that if you can help a little bit earlier, I wish that I could help them select the music, because I do know a lot of the music out there that no matter what you do to it, it just is going to sound average or bad. And so why work on it?
Well, that's a weird tangent, I guess, for me to throw out there about time management, but get us back on track, guys. Get us back into practical application that we can do in class to make sure we're using our time and our students' time better.
Well, the only other thing I would throw into there, you kind of have to plan like an OCD-ridden creature. You know what I mean? You just have to plan like some kind of Lord of the Rings character that just everything has to happen. But they all need to realize this. We're not asking you to rehearse faster. The key is to rehearse slower and correctly in the way you want it to happen. And that is part of the planning, because I always fear when I tell directors that I'm working with that we need to plan the rehearsal, they interpret that as we've got to go faster. We got to get more things checked off the boxes. And it's like, no, if sometimes you have to just, even if you only give it 15 minutes, it's interesting to say it this way, make it a slow 15 minutes. Don't make it a hectic panic. That 15 minutes, we're going to work the big push in the ballad, or we're going to work the pretty opening statement of our march for concert contest. But we're going to spend 15 minutes working on the trumpet, trombone, fanfare, with all the band accompaniment. But we're going to take our time. We're going to slow it down. We're going to articulate. We're going to do this. It's not just do it 100 times over and over. And okay, our 10 minutes is up. Let's go. So I just want to throw that as my final statement of how we have to rehearse. Planning is not necessarily to do things faster. It's to accomplish more things in a certain amount of time at a slow rate of speed, if that makes sense.
No, I totally agree. It has to be productive, and there has to be accountability on the director's side and also the student side.
Mm-hmm.
But there has to be productivity. Otherwise, you just, why rehearse mistakes?
Yeah, exactly.
fix the problem. Even if it's, I want to hit measures. Want to get these measures. Well, the first 8 measures may not sound good, so get the first 8 measures sounding good, and put their last 8 measures in another lesson plan or down the road. But if you don't get anything accomplished, then no. And also, this is another pet peeve of mine, probably because Mr. McIntyre was so adamant about this. If your warm up doesn't sound good, your band is not going to sound good. And if you can't make it the chorale or the lip slurs or the articulation sound first division, by gosh, keep working it until you get it, until they sound first division. Then you can translates into the music. And I can't tell you how many bands I've gone out and judged too, where they come on stage and play a chorale and it just sounds terrible. And do you sit there and think, the judges are sitting right there. That's the first impression they hear, and so many will go out and play a concert F and then start tuning everybody individually, and you hear everyone that's out of tune. And, it's just, so I agree with Mike. Productivity and accountability. Make sure that what you're doing is it's creating an outcome.
All right. I'm going to throw this statement out there and see if this kind of sums up some of what we're talking about. When we're talking time management, we're not talking about how much you can cram into the amount of space you have. We're talking about making sure that the rehearsals you have are productive. It's okay if you don't get to everything on your list for that rehearsal if you're fixing them in order. I would prioritize it. I got to do this today. But I guess what I'm saying is the time management aspect is to make sure that your time is productive.
Right.
It's not a how much can I do in one day concept.
That's correct, except you still have to keep in mind the long range goal.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. At some point, you're going to have to hit all those points.
And Derrick, if your plan is correct, I've never accomplished everything in my plan.
There you go. Yes.
Never.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I don't think I did. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the essence of a good plan, is that there's always something more to work on. If you can get it all accomplished in your perfect little lesson plan, then you've not given them enough information of what we're going to do today. There's
or you
never
haven't challenged them enough with their music.
Yeah, and they're never going to, and I'm never going to come up to my expectations in a rehearsal plan, but that's kind of the goal of the rehearsal plan. We use the productivity of the time, but we have things to work on tomorrow, but when it comes time, we leave it. There's more things to work. We'll catch that later, kids. Let's go to the closer of our concert for the spring. Let's work on it that way.
Well, the last thing I'll throw at you guys, and then I'm going to wrap this up, is that I don't think there's any better feeling of a positive performance after everything has been rehearsed. And listen, there's always things that come up, but when you do things with a plan and a system, and then you have a successful end result, what a great feeling.
Yes.
As opposed to always going, I don't know how we made that. This has been the roughest 3 months of my life.
Right. You're going to have both. There were times that we get a first division. I go, I don't know if we really deserve that. And then there are times when you walk off the stage, and again, I'll use music for Prague for an example. Shoot, my kids were crying after that. They understood the program, touched it emotionally. We had a great plan all spring, and they walk off stage and just go, wow, and that's what you're after. You don't always get it. In fact,
right. I get it.
You probably don't get it, but that's still the goal. But all the planning in the world sometimes can't take care of some of the problems that you run across through the course of the module that you're working on. But
Mr. Lunney and I had this conversation even very recently. Sometimes we all look at the result of an evaluation as when in reality, the process to get there was really what it was all about.
Okay.
And everybody wants that perfect evaluation.
No, I'm going to agree. Wholeheartedly. Okay. To me, it was never about the evaluation. To me, it was about the music and the performance. I could care. I wouldn't say I couldn't care less what the judges said, but that was not my objective. And it never was my objective. If I didn't feel that we accomplished an emotional performance and a clean performance and our best performance, then I don't care if we got straight ones or not. The kids know it. You know it. You know that you left something on the stage or you left something in rehearsal beforehand. So those were always the goals, and the process, the planning to get there is, you got to have. But I don't know about Mike, but that was always my.
Yeah, that has to be. That has to be. If everything is situated as far as the only thing important is evaluation, then that takes away any credibility of your entire system.
Music
I
was
mean,
emotion.
there's no purpose.
Yeah, no. To me and to the kids and everything else, music is an emotional outlet, a way for them to express themselves in a group or individually. And if you keep harping on the rating, or if you came in fourth and you wanted first, that becomes a failure in some way.
That's right.
Well, I'm sorry, you're just not a good director, and you're not a good leader, and you shouldn't be in front of kids. It should be the process, it should be the motivation, it should be the emotional touch of what you're going through, and a sense of accomplishment as a group or individual. Ratings, rankings should have, in my opinion, should have nothing to do with it. If you can focus on all of what we just talked about, the ratings and rankings will come, but they shouldn't be the end all, in my opinion.
So if you want to listen, focus on the process, focus on the system, focus on the kids and the emotions, and things should fall in place. Are they going to fall in place how they fall in place?
Exactly.
If you do the right things every day, if you have a habit of successful process, the other stuff takes care of itself. So, man,
Exactly.
I appreciate. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to say one more thing. Okay, you're on, this time of year, you're on Facebook, and all these, all the directors and everything are promoting their programs and how well they're, doing and everything else. But I want you to take notice that, that, a lot of the programs that are your continued success, okay, whether it be on stage, honor band, or state marching contest, okay, look at how many are sitting there talking about where they ended up, or what place they ended up at Duncanville, what place they ended up at BOA Super Regional. It's not there. So they're focusing more on the process and the kids and the sense of accomplishment that you build as a team. So,
and they're very gracious and offer gratitude to the people that are helping them accomplish those processes.
Exactly. And I'm going to tell you one person in particular, and that's Josh Shaw at Coronado High School up here in Lubbock. What a tribute to his kids and the process. And he had a wonderful performance this year. But anyway.
Awesome. Anything to wrap it up with, Mr. Lunney?
No, I'm good. I did my wrap up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I appreciate both of your experience, and I really appreciate both of you taking time to share that with others that may not have actually formulated those thoughts before, as far as what are the things I can do to get more done. So thank you for sharing. Mr. Watts, great to have you back. I hope this is not the last time, man. I really enjoy you.
And I appreciate you letting me get on a soapbox some. It's just, I don't know. It's just, nobody's ever accused me of not being passionate about bands and kids and education.
And that's what I love. So thank you so much, guys. Y'all have a great week. Go out there and help those bands be best.
Will do.
That English, what did I just say? Help those bands be great is what.
That's right.